Thanks for checking out another clip of the Cashflow Contractor. We'd love to have you as a part of our audience. Click subscribe wherever you get your podcast.
I want to think more like strategic here because a lot of listeners are thinking, man, I want to grow. I want to be the market leader in, my industry or maybe just in my local region. And we talked a little bit beforehand about how they try to be, when they're little, they're trying to be all things to all people. And that's probably a good thing at a very small stage because it allows you to get the work you need. It allows you to actually get money into your bank account, right? But what's wrong with that approach if you want to be a market leader from the get-go?
So, uh, I understand the need to eat. We all have it. We all have to be flexible. And some of the companies that I've worked with for a long time, I know that, I was either there with them during their backstory or I know their backstory because, we've just grown very close over the years. But, they'll have, stories about like, yeah, man, when we first started, today we're a drywall contractor. When we first started, man, if somebody wanted us to fix their roof, we'd be like, yep, we're on it. Whatever you need, man, we're on it. The problem with that as you grow is that it's very difficult to multiply your success across many, many areas at one time, unless you just have an unlimited bank account. And almost no contractors at that stage have an unlimited bank account. If you did, you probably would start a tech company. What the hell are you doing starting a construction company? What's wrong with you? I'm joking. But you'd have you don't have an unlimited bank account. So because of that, and you're cash flowing your growth, right? You're funding your own growth, self-funded. You have to replicate your business, and therefore you have to narrow what you do so it's much easier to replicate. If I do, paving, concrete, masonry, waterproofing, utilities and excavation today, right? I'm running around trying to do all that stuff. I get it. I understand why you're taking it all on. But you to be able to go from this company that's doing 3 million today to a company that's doing 80 in all of those areas is brutal. Like there's no it's very, very, very difficult to pull off. So narrowing that focus, or narrowing at least your geographic range, or narrowing the type of work that the customers that you're going to service, all of these are things that help you to more easily replicate and what is often known as scale. Scale is it's a good word, but it's one that confuses the hell out of people.
Yeah.
And so I like to just sort of say what scale means is replicate and grow.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it means. And so to replicate and grow your business, trying to be all things to all people. And then there's obviously, then there's this other problem that comes in, which is, how do I market this business? It's like, we'll do your anything. It's very difficult to find. If you do everything, it's very difficult to find you. If you narrow your focus, it's much easier to find you. You are the go-to for X. It's a much easier thing to market.
Yeah. And I mean, when you can replicate, it allows you to have those efficiencies, which then can increase your margins, which then can fund your growth to get to the next stage.
100%.
So it's not just about like, yes, that's the strategy. Let's get down to the really the practical level. What does that look like for your team? Because we talked about before the podcast, we want to have probably a lot of generalists when we're starting out. Why is that? And then how does that change over time?
Yeah. So when you're little, you don't have the ability to, again, you don't have the financial ability to just hire for all these, specialists. It's very likely, and in my opinion, strongly encouraged that, for example, your estimating team is your project management team when you are very small. When you're small, everything you can make a direct cost, right? Everything you can possibly job cost is worth job costing, and carrying any overhead, that's every piece of overhead has got to be really hemmed and hawed over, right? You got to really, really question, right? That estimating department. And and so you need to have people wear multiple hats because you can't specialize. You can't afford 9 people. You can afford 3, and every one of those 3 has got to do 3 things. But as you grow, what you'll find is that this person that's wearing these 3 hats, they're actually really good at one of those hats. They're serviceable at another, and they're downright bad at the other, but they've been like a body. Right. And so, as you grow, those, if you don't specialize, you're going to start to find that you have roadblocks to growth in this key area, because it turns out that person who's really good at estimating and you've had project managing can't manage their way out of a paper bag once they have 3 jobs to manage. So all of a sudden you say, okay, you know what I really have is I have an estimator and I need a project manager, and that's okay once you can afford to do it. And then what's also true, particularly with the PM estimator conversation, is that the business, as the business grows, it really has to have a continual, nonstop, serious estimating effort. So you can't have somebody who's like, oh no, I'm too busy to estimate. Can't afford it. So you got to have somebody who's cranking out estimates to keep the team busy. And then, what's funny is over the course of time, you may start to, and this is almost inevitable for every company that starts off with this hybrid PM estimator role, is that when they specialize, they feel like they lose a part of their special sauce because we had these people owning it from cradle to grave, and didn't we love that? And it wasn't that special for us. And you know what? Maybe it is. It has to be a part of your brand promise as soon as you can afford to start cross-training people again. Right? Yeah. That's okay. But there's probably a time when you have to specialize because of what I described. And maybe you never lose that, like all of our PMs estimate when they're not PMing. But we also hired 3 full-time estimators so that we don't starve because we can't afford the peaks and valleys.
Do you feel
that's
like
a practical example, and I could probably do the same across different departments? But
no, that's a great example. And I think the challenge when you specialize too early, like you said, is you end up not being able to grow because all of your capital is tied up in this overhead of,
That's right.
So you're not able to actually get there. But I'm curious, do you find that whenever people are trying to be those market leaders, and let's say they've gotten to those specialist roles, or they try to go back to the hybrid of, hey, they try to go back to the hybrid of get estimators, but now maybe that it's hard to find those roles of the hybrid that can do it at that scale, or no, it's possible and they have to train them?
You have to train them.
Okay.
You have to train them. If you want to, what I have found is that from a recruiting standpoint, it is extremely difficult to find people who, from outside the company, who have the ability to wear these multiple hats.
Yeah.
But if it's essential to your culture that they do wear multiple hats, you have got to be excellent at pumping that out through internal training programs.
And I'd love to focus on that, internal training programs. Yeah. When's the right time to put those in place? What should they look like? I think it's more important than ever, especially when people are trying to hire for roles that are really hard to find. And so they're pulling people from different domains to try to fill these roles. What does a great training program look like? And how does that really help people become the market leader?
I believe that is overhead that once you have reached a point where number one, you could afford it.
Yeah.
Number two, and it is essential. Like, you got to be able to afford it. I understand it's a lot of money to pay for an internal training program. Side note, you probably aren't hiring a full-time trainer, right? But you probably do need some dedicated HR resource to manage all this. And just because you're doing an internal training program doesn't mean that you're always using internal trainers. You may have some external people as a part of your owned training program. That's also possible, right? So sorry, just talk about, like, I think the right way to pull it off, even like for the huge companies, is a hybrid where you have some internal trainers and you have some third-party trainers that you're weaving into the equation. But the right time to do it, assuming you check the can afford it box, is once you know what the Acme Construction Co. way needs to look like, you need to set that forth in writing in every feasible area of your business, and you need to empower people on your team to to replicate the Acme Construction Co. way. And so that's probably sooner than you think. It's probably earlier than you have in your mind. And again, just keep in mind that there's this hybrid role. Like you're going to do some internal training, you're going to do some third party training, but it's going to be your owned training program. At that stage.
Thanks for checking out a clip from the Cashflow Contractor. We have full episodes where we go deep on topics that help you grow a construction business that runs without you, so you can have less stress, more time, more money. Now, we've got other videos, other clips, but if you want to check out the full episode for this clip, you can click wherever our editor put it. It might be here, it might be there, it might be over my face, I don't know. But thank you for checking us out. We'd love to have you as a part of our audience. So subscribe or check out a full episode wherever you get podcasts.